Alright, here we go again. So today we're going to be working on a Stihl chainsaw. It's cranking and running, but it's not running right. As soon as you go to give it throttle, it smothers out. Hopefully it just needs tuning a little bit, but it may need a carb cleaning. Here's the troublemaker. It's a Stihl MS210C. One of those that's got the recoil start. You pull it and then the spring inside returns and cranks it. Let's see if I can hold this and show you what it's doing. So the tuning needles on these newer models, it's over here on the side. The low is in the handle, you can see a little L there. And the high side is right here in the case. They're really hard to get to. So I'll just pull this cover off, make it a lot easier. That way we can see inside. See the air filter and stuff. It's not too bad, it's a little dirty. But they're made to run in conditions like that. But the hard part, get it in the light. These dust covers here make it really hard to get a wrench down in there where it needs to be. And then they get filled up with sawdust and makes it even harder. After you get your dust cover off, don't forget to put your elbow and your air filter back on. That way you're not sucking any trash into it when you run it. But I'm going to leave the orange cover off the back here. That way I can get to these tuning needles without any trouble. I'm going to fire it up and try to tune it. So I tried tuning the carburetor and that didn't fix it. So now I'm going to pull the carburetor off, tear it down, and see if there's anything inside of it that might be stopping it up. So start, remove the two 8mm nuts, take off your air filter assembly, and then undo your choke lever. And kill switch wire, just pull it out of the little groove that it's in over here. Undid the fuel line already. To get the throttle assembly off, just squeeze the throttle a little bit and stick a flathead underneath this, and this rod will pop out of the handle here. And then you need to, well, I'll show you in a second. Got the choke cable rod off, throttle cable out of the way. Now this crossbar here that you kill and everything's on, it's just pressed in. It's held underneath this spring here and pressed in to an orange piece. Just like a flathead, pop it up and it'll rotate out. Now your carburetor will be free to slide off. When you're putting it back together, just got to make sure this is when this wire and this make contact, it kills it. So when you're putting this assembly back in there, make sure you get that spring on top of this arm. It sits right on top of that ledge. The first thing I always do, flip it over, remove this main screw there, take off this bottom faceplate, and check right there. That's where fuel comes in here through the filtered fuel line, and then it goes through this little mesh screen to the jets. And a lot of times if the fuel line has a hole in it or a filter came off, it'll stop up that part, and that'll choke it out from getting any fuel at high speed, high idle, whatever you, well, not high idle, but running wide open throttle. But this one's pretty clean. I'm going to pull the top side and make sure the diaphragm's not busted or anything. I'm going to make a video of it running to show that I did have some luck with the carburetor. Turned it off for a little while, came back and tried to crank it, and it wouldn't fire. So pulled the plug, and it was only sparking every now and then. Tried a different plug doing the same thing. So I knew something must be either killing the fire or blocking it or something. So pull rope cover off, just 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, and that one up there. And all this looks pretty nasty. So I figured I'd at least sandpaper the magnets and the coil. So I undid a screw that was here, and then another one that was here through this wire. Pulled this up. You can't even see the contacts. I don't know how it ran in the first place. There's little magnets under there. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's how it generates spark. And then here too. Those are so corroded. So I'm just going to take my time, clean this coil, get all that sawdust and oil off of it, put it back together, and then I'll film it running, hopefully.